Welcome to Men Let Me Reason, the podcast, a space dedicated to fostering open and honest conversations about the complex realities of fatherhood and ultimately manhood in today's world. We will be exploring the unspoken issues that we men face, shedding light on what society expects of us, our emotions, and our social interactions at all levels, especially within the family. This podcast isn't just about acknowledging issues, it's about us men being accountable, transparent, and finding solutions while building strong support systems. So men, let me reason. Welcome to Men Let Me Reason. This is a safe space where we men get together and talk about the unspoken realities of manhood. This episode, we will focus on when things go wrong. I am Fabian Sargent. I'm your host, and with me to dissect this topic is none other than Anderson Rice and Imran Richards. Men, welcome.
What's going
Welcome,
on?
my brother.
Off here, B.
Good.
It's great to be
So,
here.
there's a real serious topic, oftentimes we like when everything going good. We could deal with when money flowing, when the relationship thing, and specifically when we talk about fatherhood, we like when everything in our favor. Parenting going good, you're getting to see your children. But what has happened when things go wrong? I think that's what separates all of we as men, and I think it's something that we gotta dissect, something that we really need to talk about, and really give encouragement to the men that are watching this podcast in terms of how they can recover. So let me just start at the beginning, what's your thoughts about the topic? First, just generally, how in terms of men recovering.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, Phoebe, I think that this is something that men really don't discuss too regularly because of how men are raised in society, in our society specifically. And it's something that needs to be addressed, needs to be talked about, that men need the opportunity to hear other individuals speaking about how they overcome their issues, because in our society, men face a lot of challenges. Only a couple of days ago, I was speaking to a young man who was having serious challenges in his relationship in terms of raising his children. So, yeah.
Yeah. Imran, what do you think?
I think as I consider this particular topic, it causes me to reflect on my own life.
Yeah.
And I like this topic because of the emphasis on what do you do when mistakes happen. So how do you recover when things go wrong? But I think the question for me is, how do you prepare men to ensure that things go right? And I feel like there are too many times where we are having this conversation around what men need to do in order to pull their lives off of a particular path and to try and recover from mistakes that they would have made. And I would love if we had more conversations around how do we get it right, because the challenge is that some mistakes you can't recover from. There's some decisions, there's some choices that individuals make that is extremely difficult to recover from. But I think this is a really important topic because it speaks to resilience. So it speaks to the inevitability of our humanity in relation to making a mistake at some point in time. We will make a poor decision, a poor choice. We will fall or falter at some point, and men need to be armed with the knowledge, the skills, and the tools necessary to be able to keep going in the face of adversity, in the face of roadblocks, when they face obstacles. Too many men quit, turn back, or give up at the first sign of an obstacle. And I feel like this is a really important topic for sure.
But what part we just start from? What part do you learn these skills?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. Where can you learn these skills from? And I really believe that the first place that these should be taught is at home. But then I would beg the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg, sort of thing, right? But I believe that men should be learning these things in home from fathers. But the problem is that in society, many fathers are not present. So then, whose responsibility is it? Right? Is it the responsibility of the school? Is it the responsibility of the church? Is it the responsibility of the block? Where can men learn these things from? That's a very important question.
I think it's a combination of all. I really think that we could pull strength from the church, we could pull strength from schools, we could pull strength from community organizations, even the average man on the road, you know. And they say like all we go apart to play in this stuff, because even though there's a degree of fatherlessness in this society, there's still that the ability for you to demonstrate those qualities that we would like to see in men. You know what I mean? Like we got a lot of men out there that lost. That loss, and the question is how do we get these men to focus, you know? And while you talk about, you know, as you mentioned, we focus too much on when things go wrong other than preparing men to get it right. How do we, you know?
I mean, all right, so, you know, I was in prison one time along with Dario. We were doing some ministry to men.
So you said you're in prison just now.
We're doing some work. But and while they're doing this work with these men, Dario said that there are consequences associated with your choices. And he looked at the men and he said, there's some of you know you are living in the consequences of past decisions that you have made. One of the youngsters raised his hand and he looked at Dario and he said, you know, Dario, you're right. Growing up, like, I knew that if I did not come off of the trajectory that I was on, I would end up either in prison right here or dead. And Dario said, exactly. So many of us as men don't actually think about the consequences associated with our choices until it is too late. The guy raised his hand again and said, no, Dario, you don't understand. I was okay with those options.
Hey, jeez on.
What do you see? What do you see in that? And so I think that one of the things that we have to be aware of is society has changed. And it starts with our view, our perception of manhood. And our perception of manhood. I won't come back. I know you said, Fabian, you know, the school and the church and all of that stuff, but our perception of manhood, our sense of identity as males starts in the household.
Correct.
Straight.
Yeah, it starts in the family. And the sole person, one of the main persons that is responsible for that within the family in terms of shaping my identity as a man has to be my father.
Correct.
Has to be another meal. And I think too many men are missing that reality. So I understand you talked about it, right? About the absence of fathers. But what is equally as powerful, what is equally as problematic as absence is presence. And what I mean by that is my father is absent from my life, saying it fill that void. No, the issue is what is filling that void. You know what I mean? One of the first things that we long for as men, as individuals, any men, women, it don't matter, is belonging. If you don't get a sense of belonging at home, then you can search for belonging elsewhere.
Correct.
You understand? So I think that we have to look at the issue of fatherlessness and how it actually affects men from the very beginning. Their sense of identity, their thoughts around their potential, their sense of security. And the level of moral authority that needs to be established in the life of an individual. You see those four things? Identity, affirmation of potential, your sense of emotional security, and authority, moral authority. Men have to do that. And where men don't do that, then you got problems.
But
that's powerful. I can jump in here.
Of course, of course.
So like, we
You jump in, you call me a jailbird. I want jump in here, but you might jump up.
So, Imran, what you just shared was so powerful and so true, which brings us back then to the point, right? So, a man now he comes in a household where his father was not absent, and he's lacking all those things. So then, what does that individual do, right? Because I agree, you're 100%. It starts in the household. That is where it starts. It starts in the home. We cannot depend on the church, we cannot depend on the school, we cannot depend on society to ingrain men with these ideals. It has to start in the home. The home is the most important aspect. But if the home has failed, then whose responsibility it is? And I want to answer that question, because I believe then that if a man finds himself in a situation where all those things have failed him, he didn't have a father in the home, he has to come to a place where he makes the decision that he is going to take personal responsibility for his life.
Intentionality, boy.
I'm telling you, fam. Because if I don't take personal responsibility for my life, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
so, yeah, good. So I agree.
Yeah.
But watch this, right? Personal responsibility for my life means that I take responsibility for my choices, right?
And are you aware of what's going on?
Yeah, correct, right? No. And we say this all the time. A person is not shaped by their circumstances, they're shaped by their choices. So you don't have to become a casualty of the culture. We agree. But if you grow up without certain tools, if you grew up without certain knowledge, if you grew up without certain values that have been instilled in you, then your ability to make a choice, a good choice, is diminished completely. There are some young people out there, Fabian, that have no idea where to start in relation to making good decisions though. You know why? Because all they have been exposed to day after day after day is poor choices, poor examples. So in their mind, going to school and gambling instead of going to class is the all right thing to do. They don't know any better. So I feel like it is critical. It is important to say personal responsibility is important. But there are a lot of individuals that are not armed with the skills to be able to take that personal responsibility. That don't have the cognitive capacity to discern between right and wrong. That can say I am okay with those choices. That you don't get it twisted. I was okay with those consequences. What do you mean? Don't know any better. So I do think though, to come back to what Anderson is saying, is that this is where other men have to step in, because we said what is equally as important as absence is presence, right? And so if a father is absent, then another male has to step in and become a father figure, to know how to arm that guy with the ability, with the knowledge, with the tools, with the skills to say, listen, you can make a different choice.
Correct.
Because the issue is you can't say yes to something if you don't see it. Somebody gonna come alongside you and say, listen, fam, you see that?
Correct.
That's another choice there, you know. You see that? That's another choice there, you know. A lot of times men feel like this is the only option. This is the only, be a bad boy. That's the only choice that I can make. So I feel like this is where you need other men, other mentors.
You're
100%.
Fam. So you go help people to meet. Anyway, I'm talking too much.
Man, no, I
was just hoping they beat me just now, you know, because it was getting real intense.
I love it because there's the information that we're going to get out there. This is the information that men need to hear. Boys need to hear this. And I really wanted, like, because we were saying just now about the void and persons not understanding how to make that decision. I was going to ask you, about being, just to be a little vulnerable, like, where did that turning point even for you? Because anybody know Imran's story and background, like, would believe that he ain't no right for wrong. This man just no wrong, Like for you, what filled that void? How did you straighten up? And decide, or understood, like, I have another choice.
No, that's really good. I think So he was about as I would.
So even though he,
Big man, by yourself, you like the personal responsibility.
Yes,
You like big
yes,
man.
Personal
yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
Personal responsibility.
So this one, but I lose,
But
man.
a policeman actually was responsible for the change that I experienced.
Right. Okay.
As a 19-year-old who was completely misguided, whose father was addicted to cocaine, to drugs, whose grandfather smoked for maybe 70 or 80 years of his life and died as a result of it, you know, who grew up seeing all of his uncles, every male in my family smoked or abused drugs in some way. And cussing the police coming to the house and kicking on the door, etc. So this was the reality that I grew up in. But at the age of 19 years old, after being kicked out of school and heading down a path that would lead to surely destruction, right? This policeman calls my house, and the church at the time went into a period of like praying and so forth because it was being a menace, and they had to pray for him too as well because he was also a menace. But they were praying, and this policeman felt like, you know what, I needed to do more than just be a part of a prayer meeting for this young man.
Powerful.
And so he called me up and invited me to lunch with him and his family. I can't tell you about any man when I was growing up as a teenager that invited me to come and eat food. Man, invite me to kind of drink a little alcohol. Man, invite me to kind of smoke a little weed. Man, invite me to kind of skip school and things. Number one, invited me to come and sit down and have lunch with your family. And model saying to me that I never saw before. So I ended up saying yes. Man called back. He was a trickster though. He called back. He was a trickster. He called back. I said, well, it makes sense to come into lunch. You will come church too, you know. And
good trick.
Good trick. Good trick.
Yeah.
But he demonstrated interest in me, and as a result of his invitation, his decision to play an active role in my life, everything began to shift. And this is where I think, you know, whenever I talk about stuff like this, because I am not yet a father, I don't speak from the perspective of a father. I speak from the perspective of a son. And as a son, I always wanted to feel a sense of belonging. I always wanted to have somebody believe in me. I always wondered why my father was absent, why he wasn't around, you know. But finally, there's somebody else that stepped in and played a similar role, and my life completely transformed as a result of it. This is why I would always celebrate and support mentorship programs. Because you're powerful. Because you you
fill that space.
They fill the void. You know what I mean? As opposed to allowing the block or somebody, you know what I mean, or the boss or whatever to fill the void, that you find positive role models that can speak in to a young man's life and affirm his potential, speak to his identity and his sense of self-worth, help him to see a bigger vision than St. Lawrence Gap on a Saturday night, or a gun in your waist, like begins to show him the horizon of all that is possible for him. If he begins to see and acknowledge this is who it was created to be, not what popular culture says, etc. And that contributed to my life being transformed for sure. So I think that's where we gotta start. Is if you want to contribute to correcting the issues in my head, find some way to walk with, find some way to come alongside of. You know, a young man, you invite them over to your house. You know, you don't just get successful and get a nice little house so you can pose off for your family. Your house is a huge asset that can be a seedbed of change for a young man, for a misguided boy out there, you know. So
we gotta stop being selfish, because I feel sometimes we just live for we. When we check societies now, these houses so close in. And sometimes like, I even feel guilty of that. When I look outside my community, I can't see boy walking up on the road. I mean, like it's so locked in that we have lost that community spirit, or even 100%. The ability to provide that space for somebody else to come in. But I want to go a little deeper than this, and understand again, come at you with this. You know, since we reasoning, and we've been doing this podcast, we have not even touched anything associated with the church. We have not touched anything with the Bible, you know what I mean? And I think that we need, you're smiling, because you know that played a big part in the transformation, you know? And I want to speak to that because it's an option, it's one of the choices. We ain't saying that you got to go this way, you got to go that way, but it's an option that we cannot leave out. And I feel the fact that as a society, as we move away from that spiritual grounding, we kind of got people like, don't know what to hold on to. It's like you in the middle of the ocean and you just there. And you got a limited swimming capacity. You know what I mean? What can happen, you can drown at some point. So yeah, man, speak to the church, like how important is the church in this in terms of building that capacity to recover when things go wrong?
Yeah, bro. I feel like the church is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful tool to bring about change in society. And I'm speaking, as you rightly said, from personal experience, because when I was going through my season and I was going weird and, you know, on the block, smoking and selling drugs and all these things, it was because of the power of the message that the church pushes. And the interesting thing about it is that when you think about it, based on what Imran was just saying, again, it was a man, because Jesus is a man who came and played a mentorship role and showed men another way. And he didn't just pray, he invited men to come and eat. If you think about it, right? Zacchaeus. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the story of Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. And he climbed up in a sycamore tree because of Jesus he wanted to see. And the master passed by one day and looked up in that tree. And he saw Zacchaeus and told Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus, come down, because I am going to your house today. And Jesus had lunch with him that day, and his life was changed. And I feel like the message of the cross and what Jesus has done for us, right, can bring about great change in society. When you read history, there have been many individuals who, when they really embodied that message, it revolutionized society. And I feel as though the church is a weapon for massive change, right? And I believe I'm very confident.
A weapon for massive change.
A weapon, right? A weapon of mass destruction against the chaos that we are seeing in the lives of men. And I feel that in the coming years we can see a lot more change coming forth from the church, because right now the church is at a place where there are so many individuals now who are rising up, men like Imran, right? I mean, he does heard Imran's story, but Imran didn't tell you that he came from that place, but now he leads one of the most powerful evangelistic organizations, not in Barbados, but in the world, fam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like in the next couple of years, we can be seeing a lot of change in Barbados.
Yeah, man. But you see, but you know the whole perspective, and I really want to carry down a whole religious side.
Down the road, man.
But I think like the face. Like a lot of people turn away from the church. I don't like what you said. You know, you said it was about the message and the messages. Because I think that's what we need to. I know we used to be talking about the people who looking at your clothes and who talk your business and who can, you know, all of these things are not focusing on the message. And it's important that we understand that this is a choice as well.
Correct.
The choice to follow the way of the Lord. Versus the choice or choices, other choices, you know, you have. And I think that young people are so lost when it comes to that.
Correct. I want to speak to that. I remember when I was young, right, because I grew up in church, all of my family on both sides, I grew up, I had my father, my mother were in my home, right, and they were very strong Christians. All of my family was Christians, everybody was Christians. And I remember as a young man, I grew up in the same church. The Sunday school used to be full with beer young men. Or the community that we grew up in, all of the young men in that community came up in church. But then, as you rightly said, over time, it seems as though now it's hard to get young men into the church. And persons would say, man, well, is the fault of the church? Is the fault of this, whatever? But my perspective is different, because life is cyclic. One of the laws of life is that life is rhythmic. The tide goes out and it comes back in. The moon is full moon, and then you have new moon, right? You have a winter and you have summer, and throughout life there will always be ebbs and flows. So because we may be seeing an error right now, it doesn't mean that that is going to be like that forever. I'm confident that the take coming back in, brother.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I also think from a very practical standpoint that the church needs to help men to understand that there is a place for them in the body of Christ. I think there is an expression of church that men don't necessarily connect with. Men want to be doing stuff. Men want to spend time in community. Men want to talk and to reason with each other around the table, around drinks, around food,
around football.
And I think the church, in the way that it currently expresses itself, you know, a man who did not necessarily grow up in church and is not accustomed to the culture of church may step into a congregation and feel extremely uncomfortable. I don't know how to raise my hand and sing these songs, you know, that these people are singing, that might feel feminine to him, or, you know, etc. And so, or weird, not necessarily feminine, but weird, you know. And so I think one of the things that churches need to do as well is to really relook the way that they go after men in the community. One of the things that we know for sure that is important to Generation Z, Generation Alpha, millennial generation is relationship. They aren't interested so much in your large reservoir of words. They aren't interested in your erudition of speech, how intelligent you are as a preacher, etc. They aren't going to listen to you pontificating from the Bible for 45 minutes to an hour. Like, they are going to tune out and zone out. What they do want to do is real conversation. They want real relationship. They want to feel a sense of belonging. And a lot of men are yearning for that. And I don't think the church is doing enough to respond to that yearning, to that groaning, you know, and help men to understand, listen, this is a space where you can come. You may not come on a Sunday morning, but you can come on a Wednesday night. We play some dominoes and we begin to talk about life. We talk about the challenges that you have with your son, with your daughter. We talk about the challenges that you have with providing, you know, or the insecurities that you may feel in dealing with your spouse, etc. That we discuss real issues, and that as we discuss real issues, we are able then to point men to the Bible and say, listen, man, but there's a solution for that. Man, let me talk to you about my experience with that. You know, you imagine what would be so powerful is instead of inviting a guy to church to listen to a pastor preach, which is great, there's nothing wrong with that. You imagine inviting a man to your home to watch how you interact with your family. What do you do there for that man? You model something. You expose him to something that he may not otherwise be exposed to. You've brought something that may be, you know, maybe just understood at a very intellectual level, no, to a point of reality of wow, like you can have a relationship like this with your spouse. Like, this is possible. Like, I could live this. I could do this. Somebody's doing this. If he doing this, then I could do this too. You know, and so I think that's where the church also needs to reimagine the way that it pursues men in society as society changes and evolves.
And you know what's so powerful about what you're saying is that, again, when you look at how Jesus did it, that's exactly how Jesus did it. You know? So that's so powerful.
Provided our space.
Yes, because as you already said, how church functions right now is not the way that it really functioned in its inception, in its infancy. You know, when Christ was living on the earth, he got there with the people. He met with people in their homes. He broke bread with individuals. You know, he gathered the men around him. He had 12 disciples, and these disciples slept with him, followed him wherever he went. And some of these guys were thieves and robbers and murderers. Right? So this is so powerful. And I think that, yes, being practical about the way that we engage men, as opposed to just inviting somebody to a service to hear a sermon preach, will really bring about revolution.
And I really like these contributions, you know, and I want you guys that are watching the podcast, there's not a TDJX thing, you know what I mean? We are preaching on there. There's so much information in what you guys just express that we can learn from, you know. I would like us to touch a little more on the family though, in the home,
Yes.
when things go wrong. Because we talk about inviting people in, and that's good. But when we invite people in to show this guy the positives, you know, show him how the interaction in the home is, how do we know also show him, or even the children, when things don't go wrong, and still recover? Because we believe that life is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So for me, I think it depends on the context, because if I'm speaking about, you know, as a father, that I feel for those of you men that are fathers and you feel as though, you know, you've not maximized your potential, you've not stepped up to the occasion, you've not embraced your responsibility as a father, I want to encourage you that it is not too late. You know, there's something that my mentor said to me that was really powerful, right, Fabian Anderson? Said, we bond in weakness more than we bond in strength. When he said that to me, it just like a light bulb went off in my head, because he then went on to say that acknowledgement of failure and asking of forgiveness creates deeper levels of intimacy than ignoring it. So a father taking the time to connect with their son or their daughter in a moment of vulnerability and saying, listen, I want to acknowledge before you know that I didn't always get it right as a father. I wasn't always present. And it was a grave injustice to you. And I want you to know that I'm sorry. I apologize.
You see that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, we talking about recovering when things go wrong. You know what I mean? And this is what it means to recover. And a lot of men, the challenge that a lot of men have is it takes so much to acknowledge weakness.
But that's why I think that's so, because I tell myself, like, how do we get men to that space? You know, how do we get men to that level of self-awareness and even vulnerability, like to say, like, shh, I was wrong. Like, man, you see, we have associated with masculinity, with strength, and with this false sense that I must always be right.
But you know what I can tell you, Fabian? What I just did there in the camera is strength. Is that we got a wrong understanding of what strength is. A lot of men walking around thinking that you got a gun in your waist, that strength, that because you can wield a sword, that is strength. One of the easiest things in life to do is what everybody else doing, and all these men here that following other men and becoming casualties of the culture, big man. What are we? What you telling me?
It
don't take the law strength to do what everybody else do. You eat, fam. Everybody wear this, you go wear it too, and you eat. There's that strength to go against, to swim against the tide. So for me, I think what we just did, we don't see enough men modeling it. And as a result, we don't actually recognize that you damn more strong than we're accustomed to, than the shouting, than the stubbornness, than the violence, than the anger, than keeping the screw face and putting on that facade and keeping that mask on. That is take more strength to come down though. To come low, so but what is beautiful about it is that your son or your daughter gets to see you in a way that they probably never have seen you before. They get to see your humanity. They get to feel a sense of empathy in terms of know that you are empathizing with them. They begin to feel a sense of security. Daddy now created a safe space for me. 10 years later, but it did. 15 years later, but it did. 5 years later, or 2 years later, but it did. And so I want to see you can recover when things go wrong, but you got to acknowledge that I make a mistake. And I think this is where a lot of men struggle. So a lot of men is good at anger. And we know this, right, from social work or coaching or whatever.
For sure.
Anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is the real emotion. The real emotion is the hurt or the rejection or the pain or the this or the that. And we mask it with anger.
Exactly.
But anger is the real emotion. You know, so it's how do we actually acknowledge as men and recognize that there's nothing wrong with saying I felt rejected. I felt hurt. When you did this and this and that did that to me, etc. Understanding that that's real strength. And I feel like, so acknowledging and owning my mistakes, and then coming forward and saying I want forgiveness is a big thing. Secondly, my final comment is to any young man that you feel like right now you on a path that you can't come back from, and won't see it as a lie.
Yeah.
You know, your choices, the choices that you made yesterday can be rectified today. The choices that you made yesterday can be redeemed today. You know, and so I think what is really important is for any of you watching this podcast that you make a decision right now. What matters is the decision that you make right now.
Correct.
That you see me now, boy. Where I am, I no longer want to be. I ain't know how I can move from where I is, but I just know that where I am now, I can no longer afford to be here. Something gonna change. Secondly, find help. If you feel that you can't do it by yourself, talk to it. Find another man to talk to. I just always tell myself, and I ain't finishing this one, let Anderson go. But I just always tell myself what it is. I done smoke weed, Anderson. I done dealing with the bad boy thing, etc. Men see me now. I driving my little car, got my little house, my little family. Men can see the life that I used to live before, and the same life that I living now. But none of them men ain't gonna approach me and be like, Imran boy, what you do to get that?
Journey.
No boy, don't come and approach me and ask. They might approach and ask for money. Some boy tell me long time, never ask rich people for money and poor people for advice. Reason both they're asking poor people for advice and rich people for money. Big man, ask the person that appears to be getting it right. Ask them for the advice.
That's powerful.
So I just be like, but why more men don't come to me and say like, Imran, like, you can help me to come off of this life? Because I realize that you do it for yourself. But if you do it for yourself, then I want to learn what you do. I want to come out of this life. Find positive people to ask questions to. Don't feel that you're going to run to the block for everything. You know? Anyway.
That's a powerful point there. I want to pick up on that because we said just now in terms of if you think that you are on a trajectory and that you can't turn around, right? Know that you can do something different, right? And you got to desire something different because that's so powerful. And it may just pass over a person's head. But the starting point of all achievement is desire. You have to want something different.
Come on. That's right.
Until I want to change, I will not change. So even like in your situation, when the policeman invited you to his house, if you had left his home, but nothing was aroused in your heart to desire something different, you would not have made the decision. Right? You had to desire something different. So I want to say to the guys over there, right? You have to want a different real life. You have to want something more. You have to want something better. And that desire has to drive you. After you desire something, then the next stage is you're going to make a decision.
Come on.
And as you just said, find a mentor. Make a decision to do whatever is necessary. Right? Even if it means that you look foolish. So everybody may be, on the block smoking with you. They say, you know what, I can stay home tonight and I can find a book and read. I can call somebody, ask somebody a question. I can do something. I can just spend time by myself. Right? Make a decision. Desire and decision, right? Those are two of the most powerful things that anybody in your life could implement.
Can I add to that?
And it changes society. I thought you see that talk, big man.
But you talk different. But you keep rolling. Come on now.
That's sick,
Go up for it, man. Go up.
You see,
as we wrap up,
you know what? You done already? Start big man.
It's true. Listen.
Are you ready? But wait, let me.
You go.
What point is this?
Man, make your point, man. Jeez, man. Make your point.
My point is this, right? Is that a law man is go through too much things by themselves. Desire, decision, find community too. Don't try and don't keep it bottled up. Don't try and carry it all on you back. You don't gotta be Superman. Superman is not a real thing. It is a movie. It's not real. All right. You don't gotta carry it on your back. Ask for help. It don't mean that you're less of a man because you ask for help. I remember my wife was telling me, Imran, we need to go to counseling. I was like, nah, boy, counseling, nah. What's wrong? We married. And she said, counseling doesn't mean that our marriage is failing. It just means that we are failing in a particular area of our marriage, and we want our marriage to get better. Look, disarm me completely. I would say, that's true. Asking for help don't mean that you were a failure. Asking for help don't mean that you were failing. Asking for help means that you want to get better, that you want to maximize your potential, that you want to improve. And so I want to encourage you, if you're going through something out there, you know, if you're watching this and desire is arose in your heart, and you feel that you want to make a decision to do different, then find a community. Do it. Find a community. Find people that you can bring alongside you and run with. I see that. I'm so glad that we're ending on this point, because you show the importance of that wife and that spouse. You know what I mean? Like the wisdom from your wife to be able now to really impact you and allow you to see a different perspective, and to be man enough to see you work good. You know what I mean? And counseling was the best thing that we ever do.
Imran, and this I know makes we no start. This conversation no start for real. And there's so much to dissect. There's so much information, but we can cut it there for now. We got enough more podcasts and enough more content, because I believe that we are pouring into the lives of men out there. Men out there watching this, men out there sharing this. They're learning so much, Trey.
Awesome.
And this is the reason for this. You know what I mean? Men, let me reason. We reasoning about the unspoken realities of manhood. That's who we both. So, man, man,
good job to put the work.
Anderson, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, you know. And congratulations on that thing again, you know.
Respect.
You know. And thank you for what happened?
Can't private conversation. This is happening here.
Private conversation.
End the podcast.
Right. And thank you for tuning in to Main Levy Reason. We are on all social media platforms. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. We everywhere. Like, share, and comment. Like, share, and comment. This information is too rich to keep for yourself. Share it with the people. And I just want to give a big shout out to the Men Empowerment Network support. We are the group that facilitating this podcast, Men Levy Reason. We have our monthly men's meetings where we have these conversations in 4 walls. We are now bringing it to the public, and we really want to get you involved. So the way you can get involved is like, share, and comment. Until next time, Men Levy Reason.